So, I have been getting a bunch of requests to do videos on funny or interesting court moments, also some of my best moments in court. So, today I want to tell you about the time that I won a suppression motion for identification in criminal court. I'll tell you what the motion was based on, how the hearing went, and how I won. I hope you find this informative and interesting. But before we begin, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm Joe Pometto, Joe the lawyer, a practicing attorney in Pittsburgh, PA. We talk about legal news, legal information, and legal analysis on this show. If you like, subscribe, comment, and share, it lets YouTube know that you're watching the show, and YouTube in return will give me a higher ranking and more views. Totally free way to support the show. So today I'm going to talk about a motion that I won in criminal court. And first, let me lay the factual scenario of the case. And remember, I don't know the truth of what happened. What I'm going to recite to you are the facts that were written in the criminal complaint. The police don't know the truth. Frankly, the only people that know the truth are perhaps the people who did it and God, okay? I don't know the truth, but I'm going to lay the facts, the allegations as they were put in the complaint. So the allegations state that there were two individuals, two men who approached a third man. This man was walking in a dark alley at night. I'm telling you, it is like something out of Batman or Daredevil comic book. This man is walking through an alley at night. Two other men approach him. One of the men punches him in the face. The individual falls to the ground. I believe there's another punch, perhaps another kick, according to the allegations. And the man who was on the ground is robbed. Man number three is robbed, and the other two men leave the scene of the incident. Now, what do the police do after a bit of investigation and police work? They find two men, two individuals who they accuse of being the perpetrators in this crime, in this robbery. That's what the defendants were charged with. The two accused men were charged of robbery. The difference between this and the comic book is that Batman and Daredevil never came out to stop the people as they were committing the alleged crime. Okay, so the police find two men who they accuse. And what the police will often do in this type of case, all right, where they're going to have to rely substantially on eyewitness testimony. There was no video and there was no third party witness. So the entire case has to be proven through the person who got punched, okay? He's going to have to identify the people who did it. So what do the police do? Perhaps you know, perhaps you already guessed, they do a lineup. Now, every department will do lineups a little bit differently. You've seen in the movies where an individual will stand in a police station and they'll line up 7 or 8 people in person. Sometimes they're done that way. Usually they're not. For the most part, what the police are going to do is they're going to show photos. They're going to show a series of photos, oftentimes in like a binder type book, in order to have the person, the victim who witnessed the perpetrator, identify who did it. So the police go and the victim in this case, the person who was hit, they show this person a lineup. All right, but it's not like in the movies. It is a book of photographs of, I believe, 10 individuals. And this is done at the police station. No attorneys are present. It's just the police and the victim. And what the police will do is they'll fill out a chart, all right, because they have to follow certain practices and procedures when doing this. And they have to identify what numbered individual the person identifies as the perpetrator, right? So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10. And in this particular case, the victim identified an individual who was, I believe, number 7 in the lineup file, all right? And then, boom, they charged that person with the crime. Number 7, boom, number 7 was my client. So I'm identifying this guy who had got identified in a lineup, all right? So I represented this person in court and I filed a motion to suppress identification. So, what I argued in a written motion to the judge was that the identification there was what we would call unduly suggestive. All right. So, perhaps you can take a stab at that in your mind, what that may mean. Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that there's a person who is the victim of a crime and comes to the police and says, "Hey, the person who attacked me was a black male." And then the police put together a lineup of 10 photos. 9 of the men are white and 1 is black. Who do you think the person seeing the lineup is going to pick? They're going to pick the 1 black male because the other 9 are white. In that circumstance, that lineup is unduly suggestive. So if he identified the person in that lineup, okay, that would be unduly suggestive, and evidence of the lineup identification would be not be admissible in court. So what I was trying to do on behalf of my client was kick out that lineup. Okay, my client was identified in a lineup. I'm trying to beat that lineup. I'm trying to get that stricken from the record so that that cannot be admitted at trial. So I'll tell you, the what I identified in this lineup was, I believe there were 10 people, all right, and about two of them were bald, were significantly bald, and 3 of them were, 3 total were balding. So there's 2 like pretty bald guys, and then 1 that was sort of bald, and then the other 7 all had like full heads of hair. Well, the person identified by the victim in the lineup was bald, and my client who was accused by this person identified in the lineup was also bald. So I argued that the lineup was unduly suggestive because 7 of the men in the lineup had hair and 3 were bald. So of course he's going to pick one of the 3, all right? That gives much better odds than 1 out of 10, and also it creates doubt on his ability to identify. So what I did, we had a hearing on this, and what I did at the hearing was I went through the lineup with the victim. I took the lineup with the 10 individuals, just like this person had seen it on the day when he identified my defendant, my client. Okay. So my client was, and I can't remember this exactly, but I can set it up just the same. My client was number 7 in the lineup. And remember, there's like 2 other bald guys. There's 3 bald guys in there. And one of the bald guys was number 3. So I start showing the victim, number 1, I open the book up for him and I say, "Do you recognize this person?" And he says, "No, I don't recognize that person. That guy had hair." Okay. Number 2, I say, "Do you recognize this person?" I turn the page for him. I'm showing it to him in court, and the judge is up there writing, okay, doing other work, to be honest. I think that's what was happening. So, number 2, all right, I show it to this guy, and he says, "Nope, that's not him." All right. And then I go to number 3, and he goes to number 3, and he looks and goes, he goes, "Oh, yeah, I know that person." I go, "You know that person?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I know that person." I go, "Who's that person?" He goes, "Oh, that's your client who's sitting right over there. That's your client who's sitting right over there." Now, remember what I told you. All right, my client was photo number 7, and he just identified number 3 as my client, as the person who had hit him and robbed him. So I said, here's what I said to him. Because earlier in the hearing, he had told the prosecutor he was 100% sure that it was my client who had hit him. So number 3, he goes, I go, "You sure this is him?" He goes, "Oh, yep, that's him." I go, "Are you 100% sure?" He goes, "Yes." Like, boom, I locked him in. So show him number 4. I don't know that person. 5, don't know. 6, don't know. We get to 7, which is a photo of my client. I flip it. He looks at it. He looks at me. He looks at it. He goes, oh, well, actually, no, no, this is your client, wasn't number three. It wasn't number, he goes, this is your client. I looked at him, I said, are you 100% sure? And boom, like that, the judge looked up over at me, okay? And the victim who looks at me, he looks at me and he goes, how have you ever been jumped? You know what it's like to get jumped in a dark alley? Da 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 da. I go, look, I'm the one asking you the questions. I was like, is it number three or is it number seven? Or do you even know who hit you? And he just went off. Okay. So I finished up pretty much right then and there. Boom. Rested my case. Judge stood up, granted my motion. He suppressed that evidence on the basis that the lineup was unduly suggestive, because this guy just picked every bald guy that came up, okay? So the lineup that the police created to show to him was invalid, legally invalid, unduly suggestive, and boom, I won. I essentially won the case right there. I won the motion. We had testimony on the record. It wasn't even so much about the motion, but I had testimony on the record that the victim in this case, okay, the victim in this case had identified the wrong person. So if I went to trial, I was almost certainly going to win. And I'll tell you what happened is my client ended up taking a deal on that case, but I knocked off like 6 or 7 years. Okay, he did a couple of months and ended up getting out of jail. So huge win. And I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit. I don't think every attorney goes through the lineups like that, but let me tell you, if you ever have a case like this, reenact the lineup that the police showed, because you never know what these guys are going to say. These guys are girls, you never know what they're going to say. And I can tell you that was one of my best days in court. It felt great. My client had nothing but really nice words for me, and I felt like I more or less won that case on that motion. So I hope you learned something. I hope you found this story interesting. Okay, remember, eyewitness testimony is not what it seems. I mean, we can go into that. We can go into the evidence on that, the studies done on that. You got to challenge a person, what they say, what they think they saw. Because sometimes what you think you saw is not necessarily what you saw. I mean, this had occurred in a dark alley. Batman and Daredevil weren't there to grab them when it happened, okay? So you got to be sure about who you're accusing of a crime. If the Commonwealth can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, all right, which is the legal standard in this country, then those people they have to go free, all right? Or else you could end up convicting a lot of innocent people, which unfortunately still happens. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Joe the Lawyer. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. That was one of my best moments in court. Coming up, I will tell you about some funny ones, some interesting ones. I will keep the good times rolling. Thank you very much.